The forthcoming Polaris contract is the second major vehicle to include the Defense Department's cybersecurity maturity model certification requirements. The General Services Administration says it's because the Pentagon is one of its biggest customers. Jim Williams is partner at Schambach Williams Consulting, former acting administrator of the General Services Administration. Jim, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. Are these isolated instances for a particular reason, do you think, these inclusions of the CMMC standards, or do you think this is the beginning of a propagation of these standards across the government, even the civilian side?
I think it's the latter, Francis. I think GSA has done a great job, Emily Murphy in particular, in establishing partnerships with DOD, with Ellen Lord and with Lisa Hirschman, the Chief Management Officer. What I think is they're trying to put together vehicles that really satisfy the Department of Defense's needs. I think they see this train as being quickly is going to apply to all civilian agencies. And I think this is a train that everybody better get on board because it's not going to be stopped.
What does that mean for vendors that thought, well, we don't sell to the Defense Department, we just sell in the civilian agencies, so CMMC is not a big deal to us? That's not the case, really, is it, Jim?
No, I don't think so. I think all of the civilian agencies looking at their need to protect data are going to be looking at CMMC as yet another tool in the toolbox, a certification that will give them some risk assurance that their data will be protected. And I think if you look at civilian agencies, certainly they think of their data, as the very lifeblood of their agencies, that which must be protected.
Are there contracts or types of contracts where it wouldn't make sense for CMMC requirements to be included, or could this wind up everywhere at some point in time within a couple of years or at some point in the future?
Well, I think there will be contracts that it won't apply to. If you have lawn mowing services, you don't need that. But I think more and more as IT and data is a part of everything we do, it's in, those kind of security requirements are in almost all federal contracts. I think soon you're going to be seeing this is another barrier, a hurdle that you have to get over if you really want to play in the federal marketplace. So I think, unfortunately, large, small, all companies have to pay attention to this now.
You mentioned the partnership that's developed, that's grown over the last number of years between GSA and the Defense Department. That wasn't the case for a long time. There was a long period of time, wasn't there, where DOD looked on GSA as at least not its partner, and in some cases worse than that. What do you think has driven that, Jim?
Well, I think the category management and DOD agreeing with OMB and category management, and really I'll give credit to GSA. I mean, understanding, and when I was there, the Federal Acquisition Service, over 40 billion of their 55 billion they did every year was really by the Defense Department. So really understanding it, they are the biggest customer, and you have to work in conjunction with them to make sure whatever you're doing meets their requirements. And I think GSA, what's Astro, Polaris, 8A Stars, they've been doing a great job. And again, give credit at the top for the relationships that they built at the top that have been flowing down.
One of the other changes that's happening at your former agency is the Section 876 authority pushing pricing down to the task order level. What are you watching there as that develops, Jim?
Well, I think we, obviously watching Astro and maybe Polaris, but also as GSA is trying to apply this to the schedules program. And that's a much bigger ball of wax to attack. I think it is certainly appropriate for many of the schedules, particularly the IT services, the professional services. And I think GSA is going about that in the right manner, going through the notice of proposed rulemaking, soliciting public comment on it, and really taking a measured approach to applying 876, which means not looking at contracts at the master contract level, but really looking at it at the task order level where there's real competition.
We just have a couple of minutes left, Jim, and we have not talked about the election process much on this program, and I'm not really brokenhearted about that, but not many people know that there is a role for GSA in the election and the transition, the actual election of the president, and you have personal experience with that, don't you?
Well, I do. As acting administrator, under the Presidential Transition Act of 1963, GSA has a leading role in presidential transition. One of the roles of the GSA administrator is to actually choose and designate an apparent successful winner of the election. That is so that you can maximize the time between the date of the election and inauguration on January 20th. you don't know the official winner until the Electoral College votes in December. So you want to try and pick an apparent winner as soon as possible. On the night that I did it back in 2008, long story short, we still had about 50 people working at 11 o'clock at night. And I had decided that I knew who the apparent successful winner was. And we had three documents assigned: letter to the winner, letter to the unsuccessful, and letter to our CFO, turning over the funds to the winner. And when I sat down to sign it, first of all the letterhead was wrong, so a young lady went back and changed that. And then when she came back, put all three in front of me, and people crowded around. There were pens for each one, and they wanted to take my picture, I guess. And I said, look, I'm sorry, I can't sign this. And they said, well, why not? I said, well, all three of these have me picking John McCain. And the young lady was quite embarrassed. She ran over, grabbed the papers, tore them up, and came back about 10 minutes later. And then I did sign it and designate Barack Obama as the official apparent winner of the election. And that team was in GSA at 7:15, the day after the election, the Obama team.
30 seconds left, Jim. There's so many things that go on in government that people aren't aware of, and it's great to hear that story again. Thanks very much for coming on, my friend.
Thank you, Francis. My pleasure.